So, you've just bought a drift car, and now you're wondering how you set up your suspension. You're overwhelmed with all the options. I'm going to help you go from overwhelmed to whelmed. Let's take a look at the 3 things that I think every drift car needs. Number 1 would be stiffer springs. Everything from coilovers to lowering springs, there's a lot of options when it comes to making your suspension stiffer. The cheapest option would just be like washers, which is where you literally take washers. You take the spring off your shock and then you just stack the washers up until your car isn't on the ground. Please don't do this. What I'm going to show you now is an actual option, and that option is lowering springs. These cost anywhere from $200 to $300, and they can be installed in a day by just about anyone. If your suspension looks like this, then all you need is a tool that compresses the spring, and then you can take the top nut off the strut, and it just pops off, you pop the lowering spring on. Or, if you have something like this, which is often called a divorce setup, where the spring and the shock are in different places, then it's super easy. All you have to do, drop the top nuts off the shock and then just have your friend stand right here, and your spring should just be able to pull right out. You can pop the lowered one in and it'll be like 10 times easier putting this one in than it was to get the stock one out because it's so much lower. But this does come with a lack of adjustability, and that's where coilovers come into play. Now, coilovers can run you like $1,500, sometimes even $2,000, so I'll touch on that in a later video if you want a video more about like what really to do with drift suspension if you have unlimited budget or just a bunch of money. If you want that video, leave a comment down below, leave a like, hit subscribe so you don't miss out on that video. The next thing on our list is going to be an alignment. This is probably the scariest thing for most people because there are a lot of numbers and words like toe, caster, and camber. Let's focus on that one for a second. Camber is what racers do to their Honda Civics, but it actually does have a use in drifting. Like you can see here, my car has a couple degrees camber in the front, negative that is, and for most drift cars, that's what you're gonna want. For all drift cars, that's what you're gonna want. Pretty much just max out your front camber. If you have coilovers, you might be able to max out at like way too much, but if you're running, just lowering springs and stock suspension and stuff, literally just max it out. As for the other alignment terms, such as toe, for the front, just a little bit of toe out, like 1/8 of an inch to at most like 1/2 an inch if you're really getting crazy. Some alignment shops will be able to do this for you. Most of them won't. It's going to be kind of hard to find one that will do it for you. So there are several videos on how to do it yourself. I'll link one down below. Other than that, everything else you can honestly just keep stock. For the rear, if you're making a ton of power, you can put some camber out so that way when you're full throttle and your car is squatting, your wheels will be straight. Other than that, just keep everything stock. Your caster adjusts with your camber and toe anyways, unless you have a caster plate, which most of you won't, especially if you're just on a budget. So just leave the other things alone, put them to whatever the factory settings are. Last but most importantly is steering angle. And honestly, you should modify your car to get more steering angle even before your first drift event. Some cars like the Mustang will have little spacers in the rack that you can just take out, and that'll instantly give you more steering angle. If you want, Chris Vicks has a video on that. I'm not going to show it, obviously. A budget option that gives you a ton of steering angle, however, is something called cut knuckles, which is where you take the part that your tie rod attaches to, cut it, and then weld it closer to the knuckle. And this is going to get you significantly more angle for less than $500 after you get the cut knuckle, and you might have to do some things like roll your fenders, clearance your firewall. I'm also running spacers that pushes the wheel out a little more, which gets it away from the lower control arm, which is going to be mostly your problem if you're running cut knuckles without a different control arm. Garrett and I run these and they work really good. There are a couple different options that are a lot cheaper that just attach to your existing tie rod attachment and then move it in closer. Those are like 80 bucks. They're not super recommended, but if you're in a pinch, go for it. I'm not your dad. Again, there are expensive options which replace everything, but that's not what this video is about. If you want to see a future video on that, which there will be, we'll be installing it in an E46, so Go ahead and subscribe if you want to see that. A couple other little tips I have for you is get more seat time. And to do that, buy more wheels. I buy wheels for no more than 250 bucks on Facebook Marketplace and then just spray paint them white. When they're spinning, you really can't tell the difference anyways. And then you can also just get some used tires, or Garrett and I are trying out a brand called Ironmans. Those are sold at Walmart for like 90 bucks and they seem to be working really good. We'll post an update video on how those are working and if we think you should run them or not. Next thing, you don't need to have power to have fun. My car makes like 20 horsepower maybe, and I mean, you can absolutely send that thing. And then lastly, don't worry about what other people say on social media, because where's their drift car? They're just a bunch of haters. So get out there, have some fun, and see you guys next time.